All right, I wanted to talk about slabs really quick again. You see I have this board here. It's got a 2x4 on the back of it, so it puts it a little angle so maybe you'll see what I'm doing better with making slabs. Also, I just want to reference like the stages of clay. Learning how to work with clay through its dryness stages is really important. Plastic clay, we kind of rough in forms, create building blocks. Then when the clay's leather hard, we can shape it, we can bend it, we can cut it and bend it. You can still cut it when it's true leather hard too. But see, as we move through the leather hard range, you're not going to be able to bend it as much, right? It's going to start to dry up. And when it's dry leather hard, maybe you do some finishing, but then once it gets bone dry, you don't want to mess with it because you're going to break it, okay? Because it's very brittle at that point. Once you're past leather hard as well, you can't like attach things, which isn't important for this assignment that we're going to do, the first assignment for Arts 102. There's not going to be any attaching, all right? We're simply roughing in the form, and that's going to be a thick slab. And then we're basically just going to cut shapes, all right? You could bend the shapes if you wanted to, but we're going to cut shapes, and they're going to also have notches in them so they go together. So looking at that slab making process again, pretending this is a fresh bag of clay, you can see I cut it off pretty evenly, the clay that I've already taken off. I'm going to cut this at about 1 inch, and I'm going to slowly bring that wire through here, or in this case it's a string, so that I can be really close to straight all the way around. It's never going to be perfect. It's always going to be, I've kind of messed this one up. It's hard. The clay's hard, and you got to try to pull this straight. So you see I've got a bit of a ragged cut there, but it's not so bad. So I can start kind of throwing my hands at this and thickening up this outer edge, all right? Because remember, when we make a slab, we want that interior to be a little thinner. Not too thin, though. You guys are just trying to be about 3/4 of an inch thick. This is about 1 inch thick. So now, as I go, I'm just going to throw this at a little bit of an angle, all right? And we're just trying to get this to stretch out, all right? Now, you might have to change spots on your board or change locations on your board because the clay might want to stick to it, all right? You can see some of you, I'm picking up some of that, right? Some of that wood grain texture. We don't want to smear the clay into the board. You can see this is kind of getting wet, so maybe I need to move a little bit, all right? But you can see it's really starting to kind of stretch out now. So depending on the shapes that you end up coming up with in your brainstorm for the first assignment, that will decide how big these need to be. Now remember, we don't want a shape that has a bunch of appendages sticking off or a bunch of jagged pieces like fingers, because those will be real brittle. They'll break, all right? But we'll talk about that more after we evaluate the brainstorm. So I'm about there. It's about as big as my outstretched hand, right? And so now, the really important thing that we want to make sure you do with all these slabs is we're waiting, because we want to let them kind of sit for a while until we know exactly what shape we're going to end up cutting into them, is we want to make sure that these slabs are really well covered, all right? So we don't want to let them dry out too much. My rule is always, I only leave things uncovered when I'm out working on stuff. So that way I can kind of watch them, make sure they don't get too dry. It is kind of cold. I'm working kind of outside. But you always want to make sure and wrap your stuff up. So having, at least maybe 2, minimum 3 would almost be better for me to have of these slabs, so that we can get on with the assignment would be great. It's like they'll be building blocks to the puzzle piece shape assignment that you're making. All right.